In 1592, Asia's most powerful army, a battle-hardened force of samurai who had just unified Japan, set its sight on Ming China. It was one man's dream of pan-Asian empire, and it began what was about to begin. But the dream depended entirely on a massive supply of lines stretching across the sea and a lifeline that had to pass through waters of small kingdom Korea. The story of how grand ambition, a plan to conquer continent, was shattered not by a mighty army but merely just 13 ships and a strategic genius of an admiral who refused to lose. At the end of 16th century, Japan nation was forged in Hundred-Year Civil War. Out of this chaos rose one of history's most formidable figure, Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Born a peasant, he climbed the ranks of sheer merit, proving himself as brilliant strategist under the warlord Oda Nobunaga. After Nobunaga's assassination, Hideyoshi seized his chance and defeated the rival claim, unified the Japan under his absolute rule for the first time in over a century. But what do you do with a half-million battle-hardened samurai who know nothing but war? Hideyoshi needed a new campaign to channel that immense martial energy outward and legitimize his own rule. He didn't just want a war, he wanted a world. He set his sights on the Asian mainland, specifically Ming China, the historic center of East Asia world. Conquering it would mean establishing a new world order. The plan was simple, a two-pronged assault by land and sea with Japanese Navy ferrying troops and supplies up the Korean coast as the army pushes in the north. On the spring of 1592, the invasion began. First, the Japanese division descended upon the port of Busan. The fortress held for 10 days but ultimately fell to overwhelming force. Their advance was brutally efficient. They stormed northward, capturing the capital of the city, Hanyang, modern-day Seoul, in just 20 days. The emperor, completely abandoning his capital and his people, fled north to the Chinese border, desperately pleading with the Ming emperor for the aid. Hideyoshi's grand design was unfolding exactly as planned. His armies were conquering the land with breathtaking speed, but to hold that land, you have to supply it. He was unaware of the fact that on the naval route along Korea, southern and western coast, he was about to meet one man Hideyoshi hadn't planned for. His name was Yi Sun-sin, who was tasked with defending the coastline in the south. A career military man, Yi was a master of naval warfare who knew Japanese relied on getting their samurai close enough to their preferred tactic, boarding and hand-to-hand combat. Yi's strategy was opposite. He planned to keep his distance and obliterate them with superior firepower. He had two game-changing tools to do it. The first was a Panoxian, a sturdy warship with a raised central deck that acted as a floating fortress, giving his cannon crew a height advantage. The second was his legendary secret weapon, the turtle ship, covered with iron plates and sharp spikes to repel the boarders. These ships were designed to spearhead an attack. His tactics were brilliant. He used feigned retreats to lure the Japanese fleet into the kill zone, a tactic he called drawing the fish into the net. At the pivotal battle of Hansen Island, he unveiled his signature crane wing formation. He sent a small detachment to bait the Japanese fleet, drawing them into the wide bay. Then his main fleet emerged, spreading out in a U shape like a crane wings, completely enveloping the Japanese and subjecting them to a catastrophic barrage of cannon fire at approximately 10 to 120 Japanese ships having engaged. At least 59 were sunken or captured. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Yi Sun-sin had seized control of the sea. Japanese navy could no longer safely supply its armies. Victory should have made Admiral a war hero. Instead, it made him a target. The Josian royal court was Viper's nest of factional politics. While he was winning impossible battles, his rivals were whispering poison in the king's ear. During the second invasion, a false intel was planted by his rivals. The admiral was ordered to take action. He quickly understood that it was a trap and refused to do so, after which he was arrested, stripped of his rank, and treated like a traitor. His replacement was an incompetent admiral, one giant who eagerly led the entire Josian navy, well over 160 warships, directly into the Japanese trap. The result was the single greatest disaster in the Korean naval history. Japanese fleet numbering over 500 ships annihilated the one giant navy. The king reversed his decision. He pardoned the admiral and reinstated him as supreme admiral. It was an empty title. Admiral has no fleet, no resources, only handful of sailors. The king suggested him to abandon the sea and join the land forces. His response became legendary. He wrote to his kings, words echoing with unshakable resolve. I still have 12 ships under my command. As long as I am alive, the enemy will not dare to look down on us. Soon after, he recovered one more drifting vessel, bringing his grand total to 13. With just 13 ships, Admiral Yin faced Japanese armada of at least 100 to 200 warships, with some sources suggesting over 300 vessels in total. They were sailing to join the land army for final assault on the capital. The odds weren't just poor, they were impossible. Any convention fight would be suicide, but he wasn't a convention commander. He didn't need a fair fight, he needed a battlefield that would suit him. He found it in the Minyan Strait, a narrow channel nicknamed Aldemont or the Screaming Channel. On October 26, 1597, the sea was black with enemy ships, waiting for the tide to turn in their favor. Some of Yin's own captains were feared and paralyzed. He ordered his 13 Naxican into the line to block the strait. As the tide shifted, the current began flowing and pulling the Japanese fleet right towards him. The Japanese charged, confident that they would crush the pathetic Korean remnant. For a terrifying moment, it seemed that they were right. Other Korean captains returned to the fight just as the battle hit its peak. The moment Yin was waiting for arrived. The tide began to turn. Violent current that had pulled the Japanese into the trap now reversed, flowing against them. Japanese fleet packed tightly into narrow channel, and they were thrown into utter chaos. Ships lost control, spinning in whirlpools and crashing into one another. Their numerical superiority had become their greatest weakness. He ordered all-out assault. His ship charged into the disorganized Japanese fleet, their cannon causing devastating carnage as the current swept away anyone who fell overboard. This is one of the most incredible underdog victories in the military history. It is a master class in how strategy, courage, and deep understanding of the environment can overcome impossible odds. The Battle of Mingyang was one of the most lopsided victories in the naval history. By the end of the day, at least 20 to 40 Japanese warships were sunk and crippled, with their commander killed and many more damaged. Korean losses were minimal, not a single ship was lost. The defeat was strategic catastrophe for Japan. The victory of Minyan completely wrecked their plan for coordinating land and sea assault on the capital.